Hi, I'm Cliff Olson, Doctor of Audiology and founder of Applied Hearing Solutions. And on this channel, I cover a bunch of hearing-related stuff to help make you a better informed consumer. So if you're into that, consider hitting the subscribe button. So the other day I had a new patient call my office and wanted to come in for a reprogramming of her hearing aids. She hadn't been in to see her audiologist in over a year. In fact, her audiologist had left town probably about a year and a half earlier, and her hearing aids just weren't giving her the amount of sound that she was used to. And so the first thing that came to her mind is that they probably just need a little bit of an adjustment. Maybe her hearing's gotten worse or something like that. So I went ahead and scheduled her for an appointment, and she came in that same day. There are certain steps that have to be followed. So that first step was doing the listening inspection. The next step is doing a hearing aid cleaning. There could be something wrong with the hearing aid in the sense of it being dirty that could be causing bad sound quality, distortion of sound, softening of sound, things like that. So took the hearing aids through a full cleaning and did another listening check. And I still noticed that the sound quality was bad coming out of the hearing aids. So at this point I knew that there was something going on with the hearing aids, but I needed to know exactly what. And the way that hearing care professionals do this is that they use a test box. What a test box does is it plays a sound for the hearing aid and it measures the output. This can tell you a bunch of things from how much amplification the hearing aid is giving off to is it distorted or not, to how much noise the hearing aid is giving off, and you can use that and very closely estimate if a hearing aid is functioning properly or not. So what I want to show you now is the test box measure for the patient's hearing aid and a test box measure for a hearing aid that I know is functioning properly that is programmed to the patient's hearing loss, and then show you the differences. I just want to take a minute to show the results of the hearing aid test box measures. We have the patient's hearing aid on the right hand side and the well-functioning clinic hearing aid on the left hand side. The first main difference that you see is the shape of these curves, and what you want to be seeing is a nice smooth response by the hearing aid showing good sound quality. On the patient's hearing aid on the right hand side, we do not have that same type of smooth curve. The other thing that we look at is the amount of amplification coming out of the device. That number is an average number right here, and on the well-functioning hearing aid we have a 2, and on the poorly functioning hearing aid we have a -18, essentially meaning when you put this hearing aid in someone's ear, you're causing a hearing loss. As we move down, we see equivalent input and noise. We want that number to be as low as possible. The patient's hearing aid is 53, and the well-functioning hearing aid is 35. The last thing that we look at is the amount of distortion coming from the hearing aid. The well-functioning hearing aid has 0 distortion as expected, but the patient's hearing aid has anywhere up to 52% distortion, which is basically destroying the sound quality. Based on these results, we know that this patient's hearing aid needs to be sent in for repair. There is nothing that we can do programming-wise to make any of that any better. So as you can see, this patient's hearing aids were actually not in need of reprogramming. They were in need of complete repair. The quality of sound that they were giving off, no matter what I did in the programming software, it wouldn't have made the hearing aid sound any better. Maybe I could have made them sound louder, but louder with distorted sound is a horrible thing. So the hearing aids ultimately needed to be sent in for repair. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that repairs like this, where the hearing aid essentially needs to be completely refurbished, are not cheap repairs. If you're outside of warranty, it can cost you a lot of money. This is why I highly recommend that you maintain a warranty on your devices as long as you're able. So what caused this problem? Well, the first issue is that this patient wasn't going in to see her hearing care professional as often as she needed to be. A lot of people think that, well, I only need to go see my hearing care professional when there's a problem. And while you do need to go in and see them when there's a problem, you can prevent problems from arising by just going in regularly. And anytime that you go in for these regular visits, your hearing care professional will do preventative maintenance that is much more detailed and intricate and in-depth than what you can do at home. The other problem is that she really wasn't doing any home maintenance at all. When I asked her, how often do you clean your devices, how often do you change the wax traps, things like that, she says, well, I never do that stuff, no one showed me how. Now, that's a huge problem. At least once a week you should be doing preventative maintenance on your own, which means brushing off the microphone covers with your hearing aid brush, changing out the wax traps if it needs it, picking out any earwax that's lodged on the device anywhere, and essentially wiping the moisture off of those devices. Doing a little bit of preventative maintenance at home will have a huge impact on the sound quality and life expectancy of your hearing aids. Now, the third problem is she wasn't doing any moisture management on her devices. And even if you live in a dry climate, doing moisture management is critical because moisture leaches from your body into your hearing aids. And whether you like it or not, you living in a dry climate isn't enough to pull that moisture out. And so what I recommend is you use a dry and store kit. Now you have two general types of dry and store kits. You have a smaller one, which is essentially a container, an airtight container that has some silica beads in it that will remove moisture from a device. But perhaps the best way is to use a dry and store kit like this, which is called the Zephyr. The difference between this one and this one is that this one forces air through the hearing aids, and this one just picks up any moisture that falls off of the hearing aid. There are also dry bricks that are put inside of here, so any of that air that's forced through the hearing aid, if it has moisture in it, the dry bricks will pick it up. So at nighttime, when you take your hearing aids out, you put them in this container, you hit the start button, it runs for about 30 minutes on a cycle where it's forcing air through, and then the hearing aids sit in there overnight, making sure every last bit of moisture is pulled out of the hearing aid. If you don't have one of these, I highly recommend getting them. You can get them on Amazon, you can get them most likely from your hearing care professional. If they don't have them in stock, they can order them for you. They'll range anywhere from around $80 to $120, depending on the model that you get. You have to remember that hearing aids are medical devices. They're medical devices that live on and in your body. Taking care of these devices is extremely important if you want them to stay functioning like they were the day that you got them. If you're not going in to see your hearing care professional at least twice a year, you need to start making that a priority. Not only that, if you don't have one of these dry and store kits, you absolutely have to get your hands on one. So the next time you think your hearing aids just need an adjustment, think again. They might actually need a repair. That's it for today's video. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comments section below. If you like the information in this video, feel free to give it a thumbs up and don't be afraid to hit the subscribe button. I'll see you next time.